Very good. Hello and welcome to How I Built My Tribe. I'm Dr. Trevor Lines here with Jodi Evans and Dr. Larry Moray today. So Dr. Larry Moray is a University of Carolina School of Dentistry graduate. He completed a one-year hospital residency in Hampton, Virginia, then served as an instructor at the VCU School of Dentistry, where he oversaw the dental clinic at the MCV Hospital in Richmond. From 91 to 94, after completing his ortho residency at UNC in 1997, Dr. Moray established his initial practice in Preston Corners, and he now leads a group of, is it 13 ortho practices, Larry?
Yep, 13, be 14 in January.
Okay, that's a big job. So
yeah.
You said you're running around with your, like a chicken with your head cut off this morning. Tell us more about that. What's going on today for you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was supposed to see so I live in Chapel Hill, and about 25 minutes up I-40 or down I-40 to the east is Cary, North Carolina, which is our original office location. My son goes to school there, and coincidentally, I had a patient scheduled there. And so I said, you know, Avi, I'll drop you off at school, and then I'll head over to the office, see this patient. And then I got to go to Greensboro to see a patient, and I'll record the podcast, and then I have a meeting in Greensboro, and then I have another patient in Greensboro. So we left with plenty of time, but Interstate 40 can be a mess, especially going eastbound because everybody's blinded by the sun. So it took us an hour to do a 25-minute drive.
Oh,
he was late for school. I was late for the patient. The plan was, after I dropped him off, to stop off and get a bagel and a cup of coffee for breakfast, and that didn't work out. So I wound up not having breakfast.
Okay.
Fortunately, when I got to the office, they had a pot of coffee on, so I grabbed a cup of coffee, and then they had this little box of pastries, baked goods, which I never eat, but I was dying of starvation. So there's a little rectangular thing in there, and I picked it up, and I just, you know, I said, this looks like it's safe. I popped it in my mouth, and it was a little tiny miniature fruit cake. Oh my God. Of all the things to pick, I picked a fruit cake. So anyways.
Well, you ran the gauntlet. You made it here to the interview today. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. And you know, I was able to call the office ahead of me and say, run out to Panera and grab me a breakfast sandwich.
Nice.
I'm just hungry now. I'm like, wait a minute, what would I have for breakfast?
Jodi, I have a second one here. If I could cram it through the screen, I would definitely share.
I appreciate the gesture, actually, very much. Thank you. So I think it's interesting. You have 13 locations, and you're still engaged with patients. Tell me about your philosophy as a founder. I mean, it could be easy to be like, never mind, I'm not going to see patients.
I'm somebody who, I joke and say I have a short attention span, but the thing that I love about dentistry really has been that there's just so much to dentistry. So I enjoy being a visionary entrepreneur. I enjoy new technologies. I love being in the offices. I love the people I work with. I love the patients. I love the challenge of dentistry, of orthodontics, you know, trying to figure out how to fix something. Sometimes it's not always, you know, quite that clear. It's not that black and white. There's shades of gray. And sometimes in orthodontics, you have multiple problems that for each one, the solution is contrary to the solution for the next fix, right? So you've got to come up with a creative way to work around everything. And get to a nice finish. So it's just a lot of fun. And I went into dentistry in part because I love people. So I could never fully separate myself from seeing patients. And then the other side of it is that, you know, I'm an orthodontist and we're an orthodontic network. And, you know, I get calls, hey, Dr. Moray, Dr. So-and-so sick today. Can you cover the office? And, you know, I look at my schedule and I say, sure, I can be there. And, you know, somebody had asked me how do we decide where we were going to have offices and, you know, our geographic footprint. Ultimately, I'd like to get beyond this rule, but my rule of thumb is I don't want to drive more than 2 hours. So you put a pin in Chapel Hill, then you draw a circle 2 hours around that pin, and that's where the offices all lie. So I never have to drive more than 2 hours. So that's how I got where I got.
I love that story.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that philosophy too, jumping back in or jumping in and supporting your team. Trevor, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's, I'm a big believer in leading by example, which is one reason why I can't effectively extract myself from the day to day. You know, when I was in dental school, my plan was work 3 days a week, ride my bike 4 days a week. And there are times when I look at my schedule and I say, oh my gosh, I've got nothing scheduled on Thursday. I'm going to go for a ride. But I always feel guilty because everyone else is at work, right? And I'm on my bike, and at 11 o'clock, my phone's ringing, and it's people from the office with a question. And I feel like, you know, how can I ask everybody to show up at work at 8 o'clock in the morning, work hard all day, and I'm out playing? You know, I should be leading by example. So when I have these conversations with my leadership team, they say, you've worked hard for a long time and you deserve, you know, you've built this network and this company and you deserve some personal time. And I get that, but I just feel like I need to set the example. It's how I raise my kids. You know, I'm trying to set an example for them. And that's just, I mean, you know, I used to speak to the freshman dental students, and I would always tell them that, you know, follow the golden rule, treat everyone the way you want to be treated. And, you know, I preface that by saying it doesn't matter what your religious or spiritual perspective is. You know, that's our covenant is to treat others the way we want to be treated and to spread love and take care of each other. So, you know, one way to do that is by setting an example. And that's sort of, you look at all the people that you might say, who are your examples? Who are your mentors? You know, you could say, okay, Jesus, you could say Muhammad, you could say Rabbi Hillel, you could say Buddha, you could say Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi. You know, all of those people, I would love to grow up to be Mahatma Gandhi. We had the same hairstyle, so partway there. But, you know, all of those people, they set an example for the rest of us. And really, those are unattainable levels. We'll never get there, but we can strive for that. And we can, in ourselves, follow in their footsteps by setting an example for those around us. And so, you know, what you get what you give, right? You know, it's that pay it forward idea. So that's how I lead, is just, you know, here's the example and I'm going to live it. And, you know, everybody else join me. So, and I've been really blessed to have great coworkers who, you know, they get it. So
thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
My uncle was an orthodontist, and I remember him talking about it and as being very intellectually stimulating, like you said. He said it's like a chess game that you're always playing, you know, and you're trying to think a few moves ahead. I'm curious how you're an experienced orthodontist, and maybe those moves are a little bit more obvious to you than they are to some of the associates that work with you. So how much time do you spend teaching, coaching the associates, kind of helping them maybe see the game in a little bit of a different way, or expand their field of view?
One of the reasons why I'm still in a lot of the offices is because we do have some young doctors who rely not just on me, but do rely on me for some insight. So I will get an email with some pictures and, you know, Dr. Moray, what do you think I should do next? One of the reasons why I'm in Greensboro today is to see 2 patients that the orthodontist here is sort of stumped with. And I said, I'll come over and we'll take a look. We have a great assistant medical director who is an orthodontist in Guatemala. So he helps me with that as well. And then we really have a great network of docs and they're all emailing each other constantly. We've created a clinical quality committee that's made up of 3 or 4 of our top docs, and it's a rotating position. So between all of those different entities, we're able to mentor the young guys and gals, you know, and everybody has a different way of doing things. So, you know, the dilemma is, your uncle probably told you this, you know, you ask 10 orthodontists how to do something, you get 10 answers, 10 different answers, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little overwhelming for some of the newbies. But they get a really broad perspective. And that's, you know, that's one of the things that was nice about my orthodontic training, is that we had a lot of part-time faculty and they all did things differently. So when I got out, I felt like I had a pretty good armamentarium of different ways to approach the same problem. And that's important in orthodontics, because you'll say, okay, it's a class 2 malocclusion, it's not that far off, let's try some class 2 elastics. And, you know, the patient will swear up and down, I'm wearing them, I'm wearing them, I'm wearing them. And, you know, you believe it. I tend to believe the patients. You know, I feel it's important to develop a great rapport with your patients, and to be trusting and open and transparent with them. And they will be the same with you. Again, lead by example. And, you know, sometimes it just, you're not getting there, just not working. And you sit back and say, well, what else can I do? And so maybe you change your mechanics a little bit. You change your wires, you know, you do something, some very small change, and all of a sudden the teeth move. So there's, you know, there's this intersection in orthodontics of art and science, which I think was probably what your uncle was talking about when he was saying, you know, it's a puzzle and you've always got to be thinking a step ahead. There's a certain amount of artistic component to it. And sometimes it's a trial and error to try to figure out what's going to get you from point A to point B. So, you know, we do have a what we call a nesting program for our new docs, where they'll spend 3 to 6 months with a more seasoned orthodontist. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's one of our other more experienced docs in the office, and that helps kind of get them up to speed. But, you know, I think back on when I started, and Trevor, you probably can recall this too. When you first started, you know, I didn't know anything. And I fortunately cold started a practice. So I had like 1 patient a week or something. So it was easy to move slowly. When someone comes and joins us, you know, they may be seeing 60, 70 patients a day.
Wow.
And we have fantastic assistants who really kind of can run the clinics, but it's a little overwhelming. And so, you know, and then if you look at your development, I don't think that I was really fully ready to fly and just make decisions on my feet until maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put the same number to it. It takes about 5 years to become a really competent clinician, you know, and be able, like you said, be able to, whatever comes in, I know I can get out of this mess, right? Like I know I can fix it. Yeah. It takes a while.
Yeah. I think dentistry, you know, in general, irrespective of what your specialty is, or your orientation, whatever you want to call it, we all see things that we're like, huh? You know, and the longer that you're doing it, the more comfortable you are going, huh? Okay, you know, I'll do this. And, you know, when I was a hospital dentist, you know, I had patients that you know, I did a lot of heroic dentistry. And I would tell them, you know, I really want to work with you. I want to help you out. I understand you've got limited income. So we're going to try something that I hope will be serviceable, but I can't guarantee it's going to last more than a couple, 3 years. And they would say, that's fine. I just, you know, I need something. I want to be able to smile again. I can't afford, you know, 20 implants or whatever it was for a full mouth reconstruction. So we'll do some endo on some questionably prognostic teeth, right? and hope it flies. And then when it fails, which it almost always does, not because I'm not a great endodontist, but because I was tilting at windmills, they understand. They say, you know, you told me I only get a couple, 3 years out of it, and I only got a couple, 3 years out of it. So I appreciate what you did. What do we do now? So, yeah.
Okay, there's so much to unpack here. I'm like writing a ton.
Oh, shut up, Jodi.
No, I love it. Okay, so I'm just dividing the conversation into two things because two categories. So mindset and mechanics. So one of the things I love here's some things you said on mindset, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or expand if there needs to be more expansion, but I'm going to simplify it a little bit here. So lead by example, you get what you give. This is mindset. There's different ways to solve a problem. I put be patient, 5+ years for total confidence. I think that's awesome. And then learning to go from to acceptance.
Yeah.
And I just love that mindset. And then the mechanics that you put in place, from what I've heard, is first of all, they have access to you, your experience, and your support, which is huge. You have a clinical director in Guatemala. Did I hear that right?
He's from Guatemala, but he's now living in Chapel Hill. So
okay. I was like, that's cool. How'd you do that? Okay, never mind.
No, so
I thought he was like virtual. I was like, all right.
No,
that's cool.
He I guess, you know, several stories. Are you ready for some more stories?
Heck yes, we love stories.
Okay, good. So back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, North Carolina was the state in the country with the most rapidly growing Spanish-speaking population. And I had been in North Carolina in Chapel Hill since 1979, except for the 4 years that I was in Virginia. And the complexion, if you will, of the area had changed drastically when I came back in 94 for orthodontic training. And, you know, I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking, where do all these folks go for dental care, right? Not orthodontic care, dental care. If I was in Mexico and I didn't speak Spanish and I had a toothache, what would I do? Right? I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't be comfortable walking into an office where they didn't speak English. I wouldn't open up the Spanish speaking yellow pages and look for a "we speak English" line. So I got to bug up my butt to do a purely bilingual general dental practice.
I haven't heard that one. I'm gonna write that down.
Bug up my butt.
Bug up your butt. That's a new one. I like it.
You know, it's not new. It's really, really old, and you're a lot younger than
I don't know what happened, but we should have never let that go. I like that saying a lot. Okay.
We can get it back in the vernacular.
That's right.
So anyway, it turned out I had a patient whose mom was from Peru, and she was on the governor's Hispanic task force. And I said, Maddie, I have this idea. And she said, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And I've got just the person for you. She had just met a woman who was an oral and maxillofacial surgeon in Bogota, Colombia, who had just come to the US and didn't have a dental license, US dental license. So she couldn't practice, didn't know what she was going to do. So this woman, Luz Estrada, and I connected. And she knew other dental professionals from South America who were in the area trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And it turned out there was a whole supply of manpower from Mexico, Central and South America that had relocated to North Carolina, and they were all looking for work. And they were people like, I had someone who was director of marketing at a Fortune 500 company in Caracas. And she was not doing anything, you know. I mean, she was trying to figure out how to support herself. So we hired her. She started out as a scheduling coordinator, and then was an office manager, and then she left and went back to school. And you know, it's just been a great story. It's, you know, it's the American dream. Come as an immigrant, you know, do whatever you can possibly do to support yourself, and then take it from there. So this guy, Guillermo Mata, was an orthodontist in Guatemala. He realized that wasn't the best place to to raise kids and to have a family.
Mhm.
And they moved to the Raleigh area, and we were advertising. He came and interviewed with us, and he started as a dental assistant. And then he became our a practice administrator, office manager in one of our offices. And then he was heading up our quality assurance program. And now he's my assistant medical director. And he's a great guy, great orthodontist, great brain, very hardworking. You know, he was trying to go back to dental school. And you can imagine, you know, Trevor, I ask myself all the time, having already been through dental school and orthodontic residency, if I suddenly found myself in Guatemala, you know, would I go back to school? What would I do to support my family?
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm a spoiled American. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I just can't imagine. But I think when you're displaced, you'll do whatever you have to do to support your family. I mean, that's my perspective now, right? I'll do whatever I have to do for my kids and my wife. So, um, you know, Guillermo was wanting to go back to dental school, and the problem was he was going to have to pay tuition. He wouldn't get paid to go to
Mhm.
dental school. He wouldn't be able to support his family. And I said to him, you know what? I will increase your salary. I will pay you while you're in dental school, with the knowledge that if I need help, you'll be there to help me. And when you get done with dental school, you can pay back the money that I, you know, paid you during dental school by working with us. You know, come
Okay.
on board as one of our doctors. And you know, that was fantastic. But then getting into a program was not easy. He didn't want to relocate. You know, we have 2 dental schools now in North Carolina. They're pretty pricey.
Mhm.
Even as a local resident. If you're a foreign student, you know, there's some 2-year programs where they charge you 4 years worth of tuition in 2 years, and they do that here too. It's a 3-year program, I think, but they charge you 4 years of tuition. So, in any event, he hasn't taken me up on that offer, which I've got mixed feelings about, because you know I want him to you know, get back to where he was, but he's doing a lot for us, and he's fantastic. And I don't want to lose him even for the 3 years or 2 years that
Mhm.
he might have to go to dental school. And he doesn't want to relocate. He's got twins, boy, girl twins. And I think they're about 15 now.
Mhm.
So, and he's very committed to his family. And that's what he told us. He said, in Guatemala, I was working constantly. It's
Mhm.
very competitive as an orthodontist. Most of the orthodontists are doing general dentistry on top of orthodontics.
Wow.
And, you know, you're open all the time. And, you know, I came here because I wanted a more structured life where I had more time to spend with my family. And I'm more than happy to work my butt off with you, Dr. Moray. But, you know, you got to understand that my family comes first. And, you know, I think that's where a lot of us are, right? You know, our
Yeah.
families come
Mhm.
first. That's how it should be, I think.
I love the amount of compassion that you're showing for this individual and for the population as a whole. Just the fact that you asked yourself the question, like, where are these people going to the dentist? Like, and
Mhm.
can they get served? You know, how can their needs be cared for? I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. There was a question here somewhere. What do you got, Jody?
Oh, I got a question. I got so many questions. Okay.
Yeah, so many questions.
So the other thing that you said is
We're
that
going
you
to be
have a
on all
clinical
day. It's okay.
yeah, I just love it. I love the way you talk about people and the way you see people. I think that that's a strength and probably something that you've worked on, unless you've just always been this way, which case it's like that's amazing. But I do appreciate the way you talk about people and how you see them. From the mechanics side, though, I heard you say clinical mentoring committee as well. So
Mhm.
you know, you've elevated team members and given them opportunities, but you've also created a committee. Tell us a little bit about that, because I do think that's a great, let's say, hack, if you will, that other
Mhm.
people can learn from. That you may not have somebody to take a role, but you may have
Yeah.
a couple of somebody's that together make up a great role, you know, can make that role work.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of folks have touched on this. I know it came up during the Founders Forum at ADSO in Austin. But basically, investing in your doctors and giving them ownership, and allowing them to hold others accountable for a high level of clinical performance. And it's really easy for me as a clinician to just make decisions and think, oh, everyone's just going to accept it because it's a great decision. And that's one of the problems I have as a visionary. I have this vision, and I think if I just voice it, everyone will go, oh my gosh, yes.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
Right?
Usually I get, Moray, you're nuts.
Or they just
We're
start
not
crying.
doing that. That's crazy. So, getting a group of docs together to say, look, I need you guys to vet my ideas, and then to help me come up with ways to roll these things out if they make sense, and to sort of be the ambassadors, if you will, for the company with all the other docs and the new docs that are coming on. And really there was a ton of interest, and I just thought no one's really going to be all that interested in doing this because everybody just wants to come, do their work, go home, get a paycheck. But the reality is, all of the docs that we have are very invested in their offices and in their patients and in their coworkers. So giving them an opportunity to be part of the process was huge, and really, they really embraced it. And I wish I could take credit for it, but it wasn't my idea. So it was our COO, Demias Pigis, came from a couple of big groups up in the northwest, I guess, up north, Chicagoland area, and that was similar things to what they did at those bigger DSOs. I mean, they were like, I don't know, 250 to 500 offices kind of places.
Yeah.
So he's been a godsend. Really helped us a lot. So I tend to reinvent the wheel.
Me too.
I think maybe that's a dentist personality, Trevor. I don't know.
It's not actually. No, you're a little bit unique, and I'm a little bit unique as far as dentists go. Yeah.
Okay.
No, most dentists are far less loving of change than you or I, and they really like repeatable processes, and they're not trying to reinvent things all the time. But that it's been an issue with me too. Yeah, I can't help it either.
My guess is you can't turn it off even if you try. The minute you see something, you see the next iteration.
Yep.
You're like, this is cool. You know what it could be? And your team's like, we just built this 10 minutes ago,
Yeah.
But
when I was in high school, I had a chemistry teacher in my junior year, and he would always say to us, the only thing constant is change. And that comes from a Greek philosopher whose name I can't pronounce or remember at this time right now. But I've always kept that with me. And then there's a line from the Woody Allen movie, Annie Hall, where he says, relationships are like sharks. When they stop moving, they die. Businesses are the same way. Change is constant. It has to be. Otherwise, you get left behind. And, my analogy is surfing. I want to be on the top of that wave, right? I want to be on the crest with everybody else trying to stay up. I don't want to be paddling up the back of a 40, 50 foot face, because you'll never get there. So that's just kind of my perspective. But over the years, I've had coworkers in the offices say, why do you keep changing things? It was fine the way it was. And I say, it can always be better, right? It goes back to that, we can aim for perfection. We know we won't get there, but we could at least strive for it. And we don't have to become complacent, and that takes you back to the Jim Collins book, Good to Great, right? Good is the enemy of great. So when you say we're good enough, then you'll never be great. And I really want to be great. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I added it to your mindset thing real quick. I just added it just so everyone knows. Now I put sharks who don't swim die. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So I love with establishing these little clinical mentoring groups, you kind of like solve two problems at once. You solve the problem of allowing people to contribute to the organization,
Hmm.
because when people can contribute, they feel a part of something. They want to give back, right? And then you
Hmm.
also solve the idea vetting problem. You've got
Hmm.
lots of ideas you're peppering people with, and now you've got a forum where you can go, here you go.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this any good? You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
then they roll out the ones that are good, or maybe test first and then eventually roll out.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of problems you've solved. I'm wondering, what is the biggest problem in front of you right now, and
Mm,
what are you working on solving?
The biggest problem I think that we're having is what everybody's having, and that's staffing. Um,
mhm,
if I think if you talk to any dentist for generations and you ask them what's your biggest headache, they're going to say staffing, right? Because it's
mhm,
keeping people happy, hanging on to good staff. And it used to be that we were told the sign of a really healthy dental practice is one that has staff that's been there 20 plus years, right? We recently acquired an office in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The guy who was selling was about 80 years old. He was one of my mentors in residency. And his staff had been there. I mean, it was amazing, 20, 25, 30 years working with him. And they loved him and they loved working with him and they loved the patients and they just loved everything. And it wasn't that there was no other jobs. They loved it. So I think, figuring out that formula is huge. But now
mm,
you overlay, the great resignation on top of stuff. You overlay whatever we are, Gen Z. There's just changing perspectives. And we're constantly in need of more everything, clinical assistants, administrative personnel, doctors. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a tipping point with some of the doctors, but I think I've been saying that for 10 years now. So, I'm still waiting for it to
You're
tip.
gonna get it right one day, though.
Yeah,
One day.
sooner or
Yeah,
later.
but
Yeah. But, I think so. I think in part because of the cost of education and the amount of school debt that people have,
Hmm.
people may be thinking twice about cold starting or acquiring their own practice. And they may say, if I can find a company that embodies my culture, culture, we share mission, we share vision, and I know I'm going to be taken good care of, and I've got a good compensation package, then yeah, I don't have to go $1 million more in debt. I can work and be fulfilled, and then that other piece that everybody seems to be feeling is more and more important, which it is. I can be with my family. You know,
mhm,
I have talked to dentists, orthodontists, who are solo owners. Maybe they have one, maybe two, maybe three locations, and they work 24/7, 365. They go on vacation with their laptop. They're working on payroll. They're paying bills. They're getting calls from the office. So and so just quit. What do we do? They never stop.
Hmm.
And number one, it'll kill you. And
mhm,
number two, how can you be a husband or a spouse? I apologize being sexist there. How can you be a spouse? How can you be a parent if your brain is constantly getting pulled into your job? And it's just impossible. I like juggling things. I've got two young boys, 10 and 14, and I've got a wife who's younger than I am. And my first priority is to be sure they're happy. And um, Thursday, my 10-year-old has a fourth grade culmination project. So, I'm going into work late on Thursday because I want to go see his culmination. And it's important for me to be there. And it's important for him that I am there.
mhm,
So, I think when as our society is feeling that personal time and family time is more important, and the cost of going to school has gotten to be so onerous, I think we're going to see, uh, more doctors that are saying, I want to go work for a like-minded company. And I'm hoping that, our company fills that need. So for other people, again, we hire based on our core values. And we just got done doing a series of videos where I explain our 5 core values. And I've had employees, new hires, come up to me and say, I saw your videos and that's why we applied for the job, because we want to work for someone who has those same values that we have, and you voiced them beautifully. So, maybe it'll get better. I'm an eternal optimist. On the other hand, maybe I need to start my own dental assisting school or my own orthodontic residency or something. I don't know. That ain't happening. I'm too old for that. No more project.
I don't believe it. I think no more project
my
right
wife
now.
would shoot me, Jodi. She'd shoot me. She's like,
That's
when are
true.
you gonna retire? I got all these trips I want to plan. So.
I know it's so hard. I mean, Dan Sullivan talks about that, how hard retirement really is for entrepreneurs who can't turn it off. But
Yeah.
I think that you're approaching balance and prioritization. And maybe that's a form of retirement in a way, right? It's prioritization.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, for me, retirement simply means more control of my schedule,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I could say, look, guys, I'm not going to be until 11 o'clock because I'm taking the kids to school and then I'm hopping on my bike for a couple hours, or I'm gone for the summer. We're going to Colorado for the summer, or we're going to Europe for the summer, or wherever we're going. If I could say that, and it was simply accepted, this is just how Moray does things. And I'm kind of working towards that. To me, that's retirement. I don't need someone to write me a check and then turn it off, because I can't turn it off. My brain just will not stop. And I want to be involved. I mean, I love everybody that I work with, and I love our patients, and I feel very strongly about our commitment to service and our mission. And I want that to continue well beyond my presence on this earth. So, that's my legacy, and it's what I want to be my legacy, that we taking care of people. So,
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really powerful. Yeah. And a beautiful, place to end. Jodi, you often give such a good recap. You want to give us a recap or
yeah. Well, I just think overall, I mean, I would go back to focusing on, I think if you're listening, it's what are you thinking about the mindset that you want your organization to have? And you can still some of Larry's mindset things. I think they were excellent. But thinking through mindset and mechanics and making sure you're clear on both sides of that. And then I also love it if you're an entrepreneur as well, and you're at the stage where you're thinking about retirement, to really, I loved your philosophy, Larry, on just buying back your time. How can you spend your time versus thinking about this grandiose ending or transition? And to protect ourselves as entrepreneurs as well, because it can kill you. And we're not, and for me, that was a big hit. It was like, I began to realize, I was like, oh, I could actually go crazy if I continue to do this in this way. If I continue to, I have 6 kids. My husband and I have 6 kids.
Holy mackerel.
Like, you could, and I've missed out on things, and I haven't always prioritized. So it's, and there were breaking points and the realizations for me that it was like, okay, time to pause. So I appreciate that call out as well, that if you are working all the time and you feel overwhelmed, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not sustainable. So think about building your team. Think about building, we call it your tribe around you, so you can get where you want to go, because going alone is exhausting. Thank you so much. I appreciate your words of wisdom. Thank you. And what you shared with us today.
Thank you so much. It's my
Thanks, Dr. Moray. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime, guys. Happy to chat.
All right.
Lots of stories. You only heard like 5%. So
no, we'll have to have you back.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anytime.